Good evening, everyone. I hope you are well, and welcome to Reform UK Candidate Questions. So, tonight and in perhaps a few more live streams, I will answer your questions directly online, live. If it's something I don't know, then I will say so and I will answer it the following time. I would rather do that than give you an answer that I'm not sure about completely. I did have this question on Facebook earlier on today, and I would imagine that this could be something that's relevant to a lot of people or on your minds. And the question is, even if we were able to stop more illegal migrants coming to the country, what do we do about the ones who are already here? Now, as you may be aware, that the mere suggestion that they were going to be rounded up and sent off to Rwanda, as if that were going to happen, has meant that many of those who were about to be tracked down simply absconded and disappeared into the black economy. And this is the problem. And I did speak about this with Anne Widdicombe, who is an authority on this. She knows the law. She knows exactly what we would do and what we could do, as does Ben Habib and Richard Tice, of course. And obviously, stopping them, fine, is straightforward. We do have the legal right to do so. And given the opportunity, we would obviously stop them. And for those who do make it through, if any do manage to do so, then they would all be placed in secure accommodation, along with every single one who is now sitting in a hotel at taxpayers' expense. They would have no freedom to roam around. They are, in effect, prisoners because, keep in mind, they are criminals. If they have landed on our beaches, they have entered this country illegally. And under the law of this land, the penalty for that is 6 months in prison and then deportation. So why they are being rewarded with free accommodation in hotels, I'll never know. And that needs to stop immediately. As I said, they will go to secure accommodation until such time as they are removed. The only way that we could remove them would be to leave or ignore the ECHR. I prefer to leave because I do not like what it has become, and I've heard all the arguments about it, and I'm not going to keep responding with the examples of why we have members in the ECHR who do not respect human rights, who we give asylum to when they come from that country, and yet countries that respect human rights far more than one or two of the members of the ECHR, such as Canada, the USA, Australia, and New Zealand, are not in the ECHR. So I'm not interested in that argument. That's fine. We would have to leave to be able to remove these people and take back control of deciding who we are going to allow into our country and who we are not. We would then need to address all of those who have absconded, all of those who are working in industries such as food delivery and so on. And they know in this country there's no national identity card because it is constantly portrayed that we would be a police state with an identity card. That's a separate argument. But the first place we need to start is with all of these underground industries, because many people actually who are legal get an account with some of the food delivery apps, and they simply rent them out to those who are not legally allowed to work. I believe that this happens in quite a few app-based industries, and that is the first place that we need to start. We need to actually, area by area, monitor them ruthlessly and stop people from being able to enter these underground industries and stop the underground economy, because that's how they are able to disappear and survive in this country. And we need to stop the flow to make it less attractive for them to come to this country. As for the rest, as Anne had said, it will take quite a long time for us to work our way through them. But if we take drastic measures to ensure that the flow into the country stops, we remove the incentive for them to come here, because they know that when they arrive here, they will be arrested, they will be placed in secure accommodation, they will be deported, they will have no European Court of Human Rights to throw a spanner in the works, assisted by treacherous human rights solicitors like the one who's likely to be Prime Minister next week. Then the incentive to come here will be far less. And of course, then we need to break the underground industries as well. And they then need to know that once they are arrested and deported, they will never be allowed in this country legally or otherwise ever again. I have a question here. Is the number 6 shuttle bus coming back for old people journey twice a day, Western Favour to town centre and return? We are a 40 flat over 65s building and want it back. Any thoughts? I actually don't know. I'd have to find out about that. That's not something that I know about, so I couldn't answer that off hat here, but I will try and find out a little bit more about it. I will make note of your comment and get back to it. This is going to be a very difficult task. It's not going to be easy. The strategy is straightforward, but executing it is not going to be easy, because we are going to face a barrage of obstacles and abuse and everything you could possibly imagine by all those treacherous people who hate this country and who have absolutely no idea what it means to encourage mass immigration and basically people of this country being overrun, which is the direction we are taking. And sadly, this process may very well begin to accelerate next week, because have no doubt that Labour will stop the boats coming, because they won't need to get on dinghies. They'll be able to just come legally. And he will sign up to take a quota from Europe as well, which will add even more to them. And the whole thing will just accelerate. If you have been monitoring what's going on in France, there are literally thousands of them sat waiting for the election, because they believe that after the election, if there's a Labour government, then they can come over safely and not worry about being packed off to Rwanda. So the tide of these people arriving here is literally going to escalate. Unfortunately, the can of worms was opened, and it's going to be very, very difficult to regain control of our borders unless we have a strong government and we have no interference from these treacherous globalists who really, really do not care less about our country, our heritage, or its people. They are puppets of the corporations. They have no respect. They have no conscience. They have no sense of patriotism or love for their country. They are treacherous in every meaning of the word. But there you go. Another question I had: what can be done about the cost of living? Things have been really difficult the last 2-3 years for many people. Prices spiraling, going through the roof. Food inflation being absolutely ridiculous. But what has contributed to this? Boris, the pseudo-conservative, the pseudo Brexiteer, was basically another one who was little more, I'm afraid, than a lying puppet. Effectively, he signed up this country to all sorts of green agreements, including signing an agreement for, I believe, as much as 30% of our farmland to be set aside to grow weeds on, or whatever it is that these idiots that he signed an agreement with want to grow on them. And meanwhile, we need food. And already we do not produce enough food. We produce less than 50%. And if we do not get to 75% of our total food requirements, God forbid there's a major conflict, then there will be mass starvation in this country. And rather than increase our food production, then these steps have dramatically reduced it. That's on top of the thousands of acres of land that are being lost to wind turbines and solar farms and other nonsense that really is just a waste of our precious land. Uh, if you have time, then I would urge you to look into the foundations for a wind turbine. If you want to see pollution of our land, of the soil, our farmland, which is priceless, it is the source of our food. If you want to see how it is polluted forever, then look at the foundations for a wind turbine. We're talking thousands of cubic meters of concrete and steel, and at the end of the life of that wind turbine, there is nothing that can be done with that. It will be there forever. Uh, I cannot believe that people can be so destructive to our farmland under the pseudo guise that they are somehow being green. They are not green. They are misrepresenting the climate, concern for the climate in every meaning of the word. All these people are doing is using excuses to tax you more. In fact, net zero costs 30 billion a year, 10 billion of which goes on subsidies, and all of these fakes who are patting each other's backs at these conventions are all making a fortune, either in their industry connected with net zero or simply flying around to meetings, generating even more hysteria to continue their earning their six-figure salaries in return for terrifying the masses and creating an entire generation of young people who are suffering climate anxiety. But that is a massive contribution to the increases in our food costs. We also need to address the stranglehold that the major supermarkets have on farming, uh, on dairy production, on every part of our food supply. These companies are taking so much out from everyday people. If you look at the big supermarkets and look how much their profits have surged from several hundred million to 2 or 3 billion, whilst the British public is struggling to eat properly and daren't even turn their heating on because the cost of energy has gone through the roof once again because of things like green levies being added to them. And in their uh, in their efforts to control everyone to do what they want, they are planning to move the green levies from electricity to gas, to make gas so much more expensive that you won't be able to turn your heating on, and there'll be even more pressure for you to switch to one of these horrid heat pumps, which I absolutely detest. Let me just check the questions here. Sorry, everybody. Can't do everything at the same time, I'm afraid. Yes, my state pension, I get 46p over the pension credit threshold, so I don't qualify for cost of living payments. Build a wall around Great Britain. I so wish that I could. No one in particular, you worked hard and don't qualify, but someone who did not work as much gets top up and do qualify and gets pretty much Same as you. Yes, I completely understand that. And again, cost of living. What would we do? Food is a massive one. We need ASAP to raise the tax-free threshold to 20,000. This should have been a while back. We should be going above that, but we can't do it in one go. But yes, that is within 100 days. If we had either control or the balance of power, held the balance of power, major influence, that would be non-negotiable within 100 days to raise the tax-free allowance to £20,000, because effectively that is accepted to be the minimum amount. Below that, then you are well below the poverty line. So how can any uh, any government department justify taxing you on money that it is accepted you need to heat or to eat? That must happen ASAP. So that would be a major step. It would help to remove the green levies from your energy. That would also help to take the green levy off fuel, which is about 20p a litre, I believe. I think it's in our contract with the people, the exact figure, but I think it's 20p. All of these things add up significantly because they have been taking from people in so many different directions. And then people wonder, why is it that they actually can't afford to eat properly and keep warm? These people have been immoral on either side. There is no Labour or Conservative. There is just insincere, disingenuous, deceitful, treacherous globalists. The going rate for selling your soul to the devil used to be 30 pieces of silver. These people will do it for a uh, lesser sum than that, I believe. But anyway, uh, just wanted to wish you well, Anthony. I'm praying for a landslide victory for reform. Thank you very, very much. I'm actually really, really frustrated that because it was a snap election, I'm not going to get round to see everyone, which I was hoping to do over the next few months. I really, really wanted to meet everyone in Northampton North because I live here. I live in Kingsthorpe Village, and I'm standing, as much as I'm standing for all of these national issues, I'm standing to do what I can for people here in Northampton. Things that I want to push for in Northampton. I've mentioned them before and I will mention them again. But I just can't do it in the allocated time. So the only way I can make sure I can get my word out to everyone is to hold public meetings and to speak to you as much as I can online. I do appreciate I do waffle on quite a bit, but I have no script. I have nothing in front of me. All I've got here is a couple of questions that I wrote down. That's it. That's all I have, because effectively, if what I believe can't actually be communicated from my heart, then effectively I'm just a script. Anybody can read a script and pretend that that's what they think or that's how they feel. But hopefully you can get the idea of why I am standing. And I would say that that applies to nearly all of us. None of us are career politicians. We didn't go and study, you know, critical theory or anything like that, and then go and be, part of the party machine, and then be given a seat if we're well behaved and and dance to their tune and so on and so forth. Many of us are standing because we're horrified with what is happening to our country. Most of us are financing everything ourselves. If I did have a bit more time, I would have liked to raise some money so that I could have had better events to actually get to meet you all. But that's fine. And talking of events, my next meeting, I had it scheduled for Sunday. Now, the one I had a week last Sunday, that was at the Bradlaugh, and I'd booked these for a while back. I totally forgot about the football because I'm not a massive football fan. It just never entered my mind. And I must admit, I'm quite surprised that people would rather watch a football match than listen to me. But there you go. But no, seriously. So I have decided that this Sunday's meeting that was scheduled for 6 o'clock, which is right in between two Euro football matches, that I'm going to now move it to Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock. So that will be the night before the election, which actually bodes better with me, because not only will it give me the opportunity to speak to everyone, but it will also give me the opportunity, or give us the opportunity, to celebrate just how far we have come, despite the best efforts of a horrendously biased and malicious media. That they have done us a favour, because every single thing they have thrown at us has actually come back to bite them. I'm sure you've been watching the saga, yet another one with Nigel Farage. He always seems to be in the middle of some trouble, doesn't he? And he always comes out smelling of roses. And he did a fantastic job. But yesterday, to watch Nigel literally raise a copy of the front page of the newspaper with Boris the Liar on the front, actually saying what he had the nerve to slander Nigel Farage about, that made my day. It made everybody's day, I believe. And as you would expect, there has not been a peep out of social media about it now. It's today. But anyway, having said that, I'm sure if you have been watching the news, the reason that it probably has gone quiet is that all the Conservatives are in the bookies, and there's one or two Labour candidates also in the bookies as well, which is quite amusing. So we intend to leave the ECHR. Labour intends to do a horrendous amount of damage, to our economy, to our society, to independent schools. And I really, really am hoping that they won't get the opportunity to do so, because these are not prudent decisions. These are not made for the best, for the best future for the country. It is pure malice. And Rachel Reeves is on the record from 2018, but I believe, expressing her contempt for independent schools. Here in Northampton in the 70s, if you remember, we had a fantastic grammar school on the Billing Road, and I couldn't wait to go to the grammar school. And I think the year before I went there, it changed to comprehensive, and it just literally went to pot. And it was terrible throughout the duration that I was there, and for many years after that. And it took a lot of effort to turn that school around. And one of the main ways that they have turned it around is to narrow down their catchment area to an area that's literally 2 or 3 streets, so that they can once again have control of the pupils in their school. So it seems that almost so many aspects of Northampton that have been damaged, that are bad, are relics of previous Labour governments. And I don't want to see any more of it. Let me just check the rest of these questions here. 15 million did not vote at the last election. I know. In this constituency, Northampton North, this was created in 74, I believe. So it used to be just Northampton, and then it was split into Northampton North and Northampton South. For the first 2 or 3 elections, 4 maybe, it was around 50,000 out of 70 odd thousand who would vote. For the last 4 or 5 elections, out of an electorate of well over 70,000, it's about 40,000 who turn out to vote here in Northampton. I don't know if that will be even less this time, because people are so disillusioned. And that's very, very sad, really. Very, very sad. I have come across quite a few youngsters who are voting. A few of them were on BBC News when we had a hustings last week. Last Thursday it was, at the Picture Drome. And I saw about half a dozen, I think 4 or 5 students there, and I recognised 2 or 3 of them because they'd been to one of my meetings. So I thought, oh, this will be interesting. But when they went in to be interviewed, I couldn't hear. So after the hustings finished, first thing I did was go onto BBC Sounds and rewind to listen to what was said, and it was quite amusing because the presenter asked them about their interest in politics, and they said that they were really interested. They just left school, and she asked the first one who he would be voting for, and he said Reform. She asked the second one, who are you voting for? He said Reform. She asked the third one, the same. She didn't ask anymore. So that was a moment of joy. I must admit, I really, really like that. Next question. Sorry for getting sidetracked. Okay, exactly. I work 46 years plus college and university. I deserve not to worry, and yes, you do. Which brings me on to another point. I'll just look at the next one. Same here, Miles. I did vote for Brexit last time, though. We'll always vote Reform from now on. Yes, I wish Anthony well too. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. On that note, I don't like this climate of resentment that has been nurtured again by it's been nurtured by this Islington Brigade, which has been almost creating resentment by young people of older people, as though it is the older people who are to blame because the younger people can't get a house, for example, or can't rent or can't buy, etc., etc. But I feel that it goes much further than that. And that is what I fear, and that is what I stand very, very strongly against. The mere notion of any government, for any reason, plundering somebody's equity because they can justify it must never, ever happen. And that is exactly what is being assessed in the Wealth Tax Commission, which is out there under Boris, of all people. And it starts off assessing how much they could raise if they imposed a one-off wealth tax on people worth 10 million or more. Most people say, yeah, well, if they've got that much, why not? But it's the principle, because by the end of it, it gives examples of what they could raise if they imposed a wealth tax on anybody worth over 1 million. That could be a terraced house in many parts of London. But this lot, the way that they're going with the holes in their budget, you'd be lucky if they don't impose a wealth tax on anybody with more than 50 quid, because their figures don't add up. They do not add up. And their manifesto is treacherous, not in its content, but in its omissions. And a couple of weeks ago, Wes Streeting was on, I think it was with Trevor Phillips, and he let slip different areas where they planned to spend that wasn't in their manifesto, and he couldn't give answers when he were pushed where they would raise the money. The entire gang, which they are, a gang of horrid people, are literally embarking in the middle of a campaign of silence, deceit by silence, and their hand, their horrid hand, will be revealed when, unfortunately, they have their hand on the tiller. And that I am against. I am against politics of resentment. I am against this attitude that because there is more wealth in the hands of people who are over 60, that we should somehow direct resentment towards them. And we cannot allow that. We have had several instances of serious um, of serious financial inappropriation by governments already, and they've got away with it. As I said before, in recent history, in the noughties, as I've said before, there was a 0.5% emergency tax place on everybody's savings in Italy, and they got away with it. They just declared it to be a 0.5% tax, and people thought, okay, they got away with it. That was still wrong, because nothing is ever static. Everything, politics, society, culture, is always moving in a direction, one way or the other. So that was in the noughties. I forget which year. So let me know if you're aware which year it was, but I know it did happen. Then we had the financial crisis. Then we had the issue with the debts in Greece and the amount of money that Deutsche Bank was exposed to in bonds for money that it had literally lent to Greece, but effectively what they had done is overlent to Greece, basically almost encouraged Greece to overspend, and the greatest bulk of their debt actually came from interest upon interest. But Deutsche Bank then sold off these bonds, different banks bought them, and so on. Once they'd got rid of the bulk of them, they then devalued them, so the buyers then lost massive amounts of money because they'd paid 80p in the pound for them, and suddenly they were worth 20, 30p in the pound, or whatever the sum was. And then they did the next step, which was to impose a haircut, and that was in Cyprus. Two banks, everything over 100,000 euros, they just took it from everybody's bank account, and that's it. And they got away with it. Then we had the lockdown. They got away with that. We've got green levies on our energy. They're getting away with that. We've got ULEZ. They're getting away with that. They are becoming so arrogant that they are incrementally stealing from us. Not only are they getting away with it, but there are people out there who believe their lies, and they repeat these lies, thinking that they are championing something that's good, and effectively all they are is unwittingly disciples of Satan, effectively, because these people have no soul. If they will do this to innocent people, they will actively justify making life impossible for people in London who can't buy a newer car. And the mayor of London will sit there and say that if you don't pay this tax, millions of babies will die. But if you can afford to pay the tax, you can pollute as much as you like, because that won't affect anyone. I mean, how can anybody be taken in by this? It is unbelievable, and it has to stop. People need to stand up. The problem is, if you do stand up against any of these, then you are a climate denier, or you are a fascist, or you are this, that. They have a word for everything, but I have a word for them, and that is that effectively. I can speak for myself. I can probably speak for many other people standing for reform. We're here, and we're here because we are leading a revolt. You've heard Nigel say this. You've heard other members of reform say this. Join the revolt and fight back, because these people are evil, and we have not seen anything yet. It's not going to be easy. They will go to any lengths to shut us down, but we will prevail because they do not intimidate us. And no matter how many MPs reform gets into Parliament, whether it's a handful, dozens, or hundreds, they are already terrified, because when you watch their pathetic charades on live TV, and Penny Mordaunt and Angela Rayner pretending they're actually discussing serious issues when they're actually behaving like two schoolgirls in a playground arguing about, who saw a boy first, do they really think that people are stupid? But the reason that they don't go for it is because they don't want to reveal that they are both serving the same master. Neither of them will openly admit that net zero costs 30 billion. Neither of them will openly admit that the Bank of England pays its friends, private banks, £35 billion a year in interest that it doesn't need to on money it created out of thin air. And it takes that 35 billion from you and I. Nobody wants to say that. Nobody wants to say that Andrew Bailey undermined the government, regardless of the fact that Liz Truss was reckless, and she was unforgivably reckless in what she did. She should have known better. Let's not forget, he was selling bonds the night before that budget, destabilizing our economy. If we had a leader who actually had some balls, then that leader would have stood up, and the first thing they would have done would have been to sack Andrew Bailey and order an immediate investigation, because what he did may very well have been criminal. Why that man is head of the Bank of England, I don't know, because he is arrogant, he is incompetent, and he is treacherous, and it is everyday people who are still paying the price for his treachery, as well as the OBR, who has never been right about anything. But it is a relic of years gone by, and effectively, once again, it's just another group of quangos who are being paid too much to produce a document that doesn't mean anything to anybody, apart from giving yet more quangos an opportunity to be paid taxpayers' money to discuss it. Let me just take a look. Okay, I would vote for Nigel, no matter what party he's in. Me too. Stop foreign aid to other countries, help our own people. If you look at our contract with the people, then again, within 100 days, to halve foreign aid, which cuts it from 12 billion to 6 billion, I believe. I think it is. We give foreign aid to India, and India is now the fifth largest economy. In the last year or two, we've been playing sort of leapfrog with each other. So why are we giving foreign aid to a country whose GDP is as much as ours? Then no, we shouldn't be giving them anything. We need to cut foreign aid. Absolutely. What do you think of the impact of Brexit on critical services such as the NHS? I think that in terms of staffing the NHS, then I think it was badly executed. There's nothing to do with Brexit per se. There is absolutely no reason for people to be able to have visas to work within the NHS. Why is it that it is almost harder to get somebody from within Europe through the paperwork to work here than it is from the other side of the world? It is all down to badly executed policies and weak leadership. We need to keep in mind, though, that from the date of the referendum, Theresa May and Boris and Sunak have been intentionally trying to erode and water down Brexit. We don't have a proper Brexit. What type of person, Prime Minister, would even contemplate allowing the EU to keep Northern Ireland without even firing a shot? What kind of pathetic Prime Minister would allow the EU to impose a border down the Irish Sea? What kind of pathetic leader would allow the EU to dictate terms and to hold our lorries off in Dover? And it is not a case of they've got leverage over us, because if Boris did have any balls, he would have, the minute they stopped a lorry, because do you remember all the tailbacks at Dover, which again contributed to our inflation because of the short supply of goods? He should have immediately imposed a ban on all fishing in our waters. Immediately. They can do what they like. How long do you think they would last? They wouldn't last long. Ultimately, as we now know, because they did finally admit it a couple of months ago, the EU know and finally admitted they need us more than we need them. And the only reason for all of these ridiculous difficulties that we've had is because we have had a pathetic leader who has absolutely no right to be in government. He's not just a buffoon. He has shown himself to be treacherous, immoral, and absolutely have no allegiance to anyone or anything. Here is a man who flew out to Ukraine and scuppered a peace deal. He actually interfered in a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia back in 2022. He blamed the EU for provoking Russia back in 2016. And then, I don't know, did he think that we'd forget about it? Then he writes this article, which was totally incorrect. And all that's happened is good old Farage has exposed him for the lying, gutless weasel that he really is. It's quite appropriate because Boris has come out with some quite entertaining insults for invertebrate jellypoids, I believe. But in reality, I can't think of anyone who that term applies to more than him, to be honest, because he has done so much damage to this country. But hold your horses, Boris, because you are about to be trumped, pardon the pun, by somebody who doesn't know what a woman is, by somebody who, by their own admission, prefers Davos to Westminster, by somebody who will parachute his favourite candidates in all around the country to get them to win a seat, but will treat one of his long-standing Labour members, good or bad, regardless, horrendously, who is a hypocrite and effectively has, thanks to his deputy, who doesn't know when to keep her mouth closed, has set up the UK for serious diplomatic incidents in the near future. Because if you've been watching, you'll be aware that as recently as 2-3 weeks ago, in her desperation to try and pander to anyone for votes, Angela Rayner actually, on the record, stated to a room full of Muslim men that if they voted for her, that she would recognise Palestine. You and I must know that she couldn't find it on a map. The problem is, there is a reason that we have a Foreign Office, and there is a reason that the Foreign Office traditionally keeps its cards close to its chest and always ensures that ministers do not express any opinion on foreign policy unless they have been briefed by the Foreign Office. And what this reckless woman has done could be catastrophic, because she has basically sent a message out there that if terrorists persist, we might consider changing the rules. That being the case, if borders can be changed through aggression, which contradicts the fundamental principle of how countries are legally formed, which is called Uti Possidetis Juris, and there are two rules to that. One, you cannot occupy land that you own. Two, you cannot change a country's borders by aggression, unless, of course, Angela Rayner decides to open her big mouth. Where does that leave Donbass, Crimea, Transnistria, Kashmir, any other countries with border disputes around the world? Do you think that's sending the message to them, we'd better negotiate for peace because we'll never get anywhere? Or do you think that it's sending them a message, let's send a bunch of fanatics into London to keep protesting and we'll eventually get our own way? I'll let you decipher that one. Right, what else? Brexit on Christmas. Oh, NHS. Oh, yes. With regard to the NHS, again, we're being promised by Labour 40,000 more appointments. Our candidate for Northampton South, who will be hopefully joining me at the meeting next week, he is a paramedic. He serves in the NHS, he served in the army. I've learnt a lot about the workings of the NHS through him and through Dr. David Bull, who is the deputy of Reform UK, who is a senior consultant. And they both agree this is not down to money. And the the workforce in the NHS cannot actually give any more than they are giving. If Labour think that they're just going to just somehow tempt them to do more hours, to put in more hours, to offer 40,000 more appointments a year, then I'm afraid they are in la la land, because these people can't do it. But what we need to do is we need to ensure that our immigration is controlled and is smart immigration, so that we bring in the people who we need. Even if we had migration of net zero migration, and keep in mind, net zero doesn't mean nobody comes in. It means nobody. We only have as many people as the ones who leave, and we have, on average, over 500,000 people a year leave this country. Meaning that even with net zero migration, that still means 500,000 people are coming into this country. If they come in under the correct conditions, if it is administered properly, then there is absolutely no problem with those who need to serve in the NHS being able to arrive. But we also need to look at what's going on. As I said before, I didn't know until recently that there is a cap by the British Medical Association on the number of people who can train as doctors each year, and that cap is 7,500. So there are many people out there who want to be doctors but actually can't get in this year, or maybe not next year, because there is a cap. Why is there a cap when we need doctors? So for the moment, we have no choice but to rely on immigration to fill in the gaps. But we need to choose wisely on who we allow to come in. Another policy is to give 3 years tax-free income to the frontline workers in the NHS, which hopefully will tempt nurses and doctors back into the NHS. The next one is obviously raise the cap so that we can train more doctors and make it more attractive for people to train as doctors and work in the NHS or nurses, by offering to write off their student loans after 10 years service in the NHS, which hopefully will go some way in improving things gradually year on year, rather than them working. Because if nothing changes, the NHS in its current form will literally just implode in the not too distant future. So something drastic must be done. I got a Tory leaflet today. It was from Northampton North candidate, and I am in Northampton South. You couldn't make it up, could you? No. I don't know whereabouts you are. Obviously, the borders have been jiggled about a little bit, so quite a lot actually. The town centre was in Northampton South. Now it's in Northampton North. The boundary does run up the Halston Road, and it does run on one side, and on the other side it runs along Lings Way and down the Wellingborough Road. So I'm not sure whereabouts you are, but you would have thought that they would check. But I'd better not say too much, because there are people who've offered to give out flyers for me. So it would be just my luck that I say something, and then one of my volunteers has actually been out putting leaflets for me in Northampton North in the Northampton South area. So I'm not too sure. Greek descent. Well, my parents were from Cyprus. Yes, close. Reintroduce caning at school. Yes, I did get the cane once, actually. That was at Northampton School for Boys. I can't remember what I did, but I did get the cane. I think that discipline is very, very important. And I do think that things have just gone too far, and there is no or lack of discipline and respect for, for other people. And hence the reason that violent crime, and when I say violent crime, anything physical, from people riding on electric scooters and snatching people's phones, knife crime, etc. Never mind cutting down knife crime over 5-10 years. I would like to see mass stop and search imposed tomorrow. Anybody caught with a knife is placed in custody immediately. That would cut things down because it's getting out of control. I've watched quite a few of your videos, and anyone with half a brain cell knows that you are passionate about helping people in your area. I am, and there's so much more, and I can't say it all in one go. That's why I really, I would like, I would like to be able to meet as many as you as possible, and I'm trying to work out where to have my meeting next week. I would love a large meeting. I would love it if many of you would come. I'm quite happy for hecklers to come and people who disagree with me. That's fine, because ultimately, if I'm prepared to take this step, then I should be prepared to take the flak as well. That's fine. I'm prepared to do that, to fight for my hometown. And there are many things. I even thought it's summer. This is a rarity because our elections are normally in the winter. Um, how about having something outdoors, at the park, by the museum, that area somewhere around there, or on the race course, perhaps? But I'm not Farage. I don't have his backup and security and help with setting up and everything. So it would just be too much. And I really don't want the whole of the next 8 days to be taken up in preparing for a meeting, because I have so much more I need to do, so many people I need to meet and things I need to do, videos I need to make. So I'm mulling it over. I have put a few posts up to try and get an idea of how many people would come. um, I am entitled to use a room in a school, so a theatre would be nice. It would be good acoustics and everybody would be able to see. But I've not had much luck. I'm not sure if the schools are purposely fobbing me off or not. One of them said that their theatre is booked next Wednesday. The other two or three said that they're going to get back to me, and they haven't got back to me yet. I did contact West Northants Council today, and they told me to try them again and then email them, and they would send me the regulations so that I could let the schools know. But I need to get this arranged tomorrow, Thursday at the latest, so that I can let everybody know, and I will do. And if you could possibly come, please feel free. There's no football on next Wednesday, so you won't be missing anything listening to me, because it would mean a lot to me, and it would mean a lot to all of you collectively, because we are doing this for you. And without you, we're nothing. We can't do anything. And ultimately, just as much as this is for you, we need to hear from you, to hear your questions face to face, criticisms, suggestions, because the most important element of this is democracy, because we don't have democracy. We have people who are an insult to democracy. I think it would be fair to say that most people, even if they're not happy with the outcome, if they feel that the process has been conducted fairly, would accept it and go along with it and move on in most instances. But have you not noticed in recent years how successive governments, whichever one, whether they're Conservative or Labour, they set people against people, they polarise us, because that is how they get to control everyone and manipulate anyone and enforce their treacherous form of social engineering. Because while we are so busy thinking of everything along linear lines with one end or the other, left wing or right wing, this way or that way, Brexit or Remain, vaccine, non-vaccine, or whatever it is, and make everybody be at one side or the other looking into the centre, it is almost a political version of what Houdini did. It's misdirection, because they misdirect us so that we don't see what they're doing. But in actual fact, all of these issues are not linear. they're not so far from each other. They only appear to be so far from each other because this is how they've made us perceive everything. But I would argue that all of these political choices, decisions, positions, whatever you want to call them, influences, are not linear, but they're more like a Venn diagram, like the Audi rings. And this is why things can change, and a total change in social structure can happen all around you, as it has done in the last 20 years, without us even noticing. It's not one extreme to the other, it's literally just round the corner. And that's what makes it really dangerous. And as I said, it's not fair to blame one or the other because they are as equally as bad as each other. It was under John Major that the Terrorist Right to Silence Act was passed after the bombing of the end of the M1, forgotten what it was called, early 90s. Anyway, people agreed with it. But by the time it went to Parliament, it changed from terrorist right to silence to criminals' right to silence. So if you're out and somebody bumps into you and it turns into a ruckus and you end up in a police station and you don't trust that policeman and you think, I'm not going to say anything because you're going to put words in my mouth, I think I'll just say no comment, then effectively that judge has the right to direct the jury to view your no comment interview as a plead for guilty. As if that weren't bad enough, not long after that, the speed camera appeared. Fantastic. It's going to be in front of every school, isn't it? Because why should these maniac motorists race around where there are children? Apart from the fact that they're never near schools because motorists slow down from there and they don't make any money. But there's something even more sinister about the speed camera that people missed at the time, because with the advent of the speed camera, for the first time since the Magna Carta in this country, we went from innocent till proven guilty to guilty till proven innocent. That happened in less than a decade. Look what happened since then. Look how far we've got. Who voted for mass immigration? Who voted for net zero? Who voted for green levies? Who voted for ULEZ? Who voted for people to be dictating to us what we must believe? Who voted for us to live in a society where if you phone the police and tell them that somebody's at your door with a knife, they'll just give you a crime reference number, but you get on Twitter and express your contempt for pronouns and they'll be on your door faster than you could say he, she, they, whatever. I think that makes my point. You can meet them after you're elected. I do intend to meet everyone. I'm in Kingsthorpe Village. If it goes my way, I'll be here as your MP. If it doesn't go my way, I will still continue to be a parish councillor here in Kingsthorpe. And in the event that I don't win, whoever does win will need to look over their shoulder because I'm going to be their worst nightmare, because election day is not the end, whatever happens, it's the beginning. I think Reform is doing amazingly well, so well that I believe the polls are being manipulated. The main parties are all trying to do a hatchet job, but they will fail. I feel that as well. Let's wait and see. I don't want to get my hopes up, but ultimately, I'm really, really proud to have had this opportunity. This started off as my vendetta against the behaviour of the establishment, the political classes, if you like. But what's happened, especially since the election has been called, and I've obviously made contact with so many people, and it is a lot, even in this short time, it's changed, and it's not about the reasons that I first decided to stand, but it's now a burden of responsibility to all of these people who are placing their faith in me, all of these people out there who are at their wits' end, all of the people, hundreds of them, who have completed my questionnaire online. 10 questions are, as I said, I wanted to know from you what's important to you. And people have written so much. It is an education, and I'll be learning from reading the content of those election polls for a long time to come, and I will try to work my way around and speak to everybody after the election who sent me one, and try and learn more from them and speak to them face to face. Such a wonderful learning opportunity. And at a local level, be it as an MP or just as a local councillor, the the issues that I want to champion at a local level, I will continue to do so one way or another, because I don't want to see anybody sleeping on the streets. I don't care who they are or what they've done. I actually find it offensive that criminals elbow their way into our country and sleep in four-star hotels while we have veterans or people who've worked hard all their lives sleeping in the street. The classic homeless person is not who you would perceive them to be. It has demographically changed in recent years. There are people who've had nice jobs and nice houses and nice homes, and things just went wrong. It can happen to anyone. Nobody should be on the street. We must make provision to have places where people can go and sleep in safety, at least, and shower and eat and get a change of clothes. There are hundreds of thousands, millions of square feet of empty space. I don't care if it's a warehouse up on Westgate Industrial Estate, anywhere that is a shelter where people can sleep. Something has to be done. But guess what? Wherever I have tried, and I've been trying for maybe 5 years now, all I do is reach a brick wall, because seems to be impossible to get past the naysayers. And I'm getting, try not to swear, I'm getting quite annoyed about it, because this is, it's just an indictment on our society, and that needs to be addressed. So if that's something you're passionate about, if you can offer some suggestions, I'd be really, really grateful, because I'm banging my head against the wall, a brick wall here, and I can't seem to get anywhere. I also want to see more mentoring and support for young people. I don't like the way that they're all suffering from climate anxiety, from idiots like Ed Miliband, who are calling anybody who won't agree to go along with his net zero nonsense to make him and his friends multimillionaires a climate denier, climate delayer. These young people, many of them are petrified, because they are feeling that they're living in a world that's going to end tomorrow. Um, they don't know what they're going to study. They're petrified of what will happen when they leave university with all of this debt. Will they even be able to get a job? Will they ever be able to rent a home, let alone buy one? And that brings us onto the whole housing crisis, which I have covered before, so I won't bore you with it again. Um, and young people are worth so much more, and there's so much more that they can do than all be herded into this Marxist one size fits all national curriculum till they're 18. Because guess what? There are many youngsters who actually can't stand mainstream school, or maybe they just don't fit in with it, or maybe they like to play around with engines or with electrics or with carpentry or bricklaying or whatever it may be. Why should they be hurtled into this Marxist agenda till they're 18, and then have to decide what they want to go off and learn, by which time they've probably had enough of it all? Why shouldn't they be able to start their apprenticeships when they're 13 or 14 and integrate the academic side along with the practical learning, so that at 18 or 19, rather than be starting their learning at that point, they would already be qualified and out there productive, earning great salaries? Wouldn't that contribute more to the economy? There's a building, St Catherine Street, the building there. The Citizen newspaper used to be there many years ago. How long ago was that? Was that 30 years ago, or was it more? And it's been empty for the best part of so many years. That's just one example. There are more like it. Imagine a building like that. Would it not be possible to have somewhere like that set aside to be a young entrepreneur centre for young people who want to start a business, to have support, access to a desk, internet, somewhere to make a coffee, people to mentor them, people to help them with their website, their business plan, their marketing, etc., etc., etc. How many successful young people could we create? We need to start inspiring people. We need to end the culture of resentment and change to a culture of celebrating people who succeed, not resenting them, to be inspired by people who do well and not want to bring them down, to actually encourage and inspire and motivate young people rather than just pigeonhole them and decide for them what we want for them, but allow them to be the best, whatever that may be. It doesn't matter what they are good at or not good at. But we do, if we're going to have diversity, it should be diversity of ideas, diversity of opportunity, diversity of skills, diversity of industry. But the very people who talk about diversity are the very people who are desperate to enforce Marxism of the worst kind. And I've gone on for too long again. Okay, let me just have a look. Is there any more questions here? I'm betting on Nigel and he's a sure thing. Betting, yes. Labour are commies. I just don't know what they are. I don't know what they're just evil. They just have to be. They have to be. Uh, we need to invest more money into space. We need our own UK space station. We need to start our new empire and colonize the solar system and other stars in the very, very far future, of course. Yes, understood, of course. Ultimately, those of you who have been investing into a pension pot for many years and then wondering, well, my pension pot's not actually grown because our stock market doesn't perform very well. It's terrible compared to the S&P 500. But then look at the companies. The S&P 500 has Google, Facebook, Apple, all of these technologies. What do we have in our FTSE 100? We have bat tobacco and 18thcentury.com and defunct.com and companies from the last century.com. How many new tech companies do we have? Why don't we have them? We have some of the best universities, the greatest minds, and the greatest achievers in the world in this country. And here's something to think about. Despite 2 or 3 decades of outright incompetence and, if you like, betrayal, socially, politically, financially, this country has, despite their best efforts, survived and not plunged into a deep recession. We had a little blip a few months ago, but do you remember a couple of years ago when the World Economic Forum, I believe, had predicted that the UK, because we were naughty, we left the EU, we're going to fall into the longest, deepest recession ever. Well, I'm sorry they were wrong, and we've actually grown more than the rest of Europe, who is literally now been left with egg on their face, or is it salami? I don't know, because German manufacturing is half of what it was a decade ago. They are now so desperate today, they have started proceedings, accession proceedings for, wait for it, Moldova and Ukraine. Two of the most corrupt countries this side of Vladivostok. This is how desperate they are to expand in any way, shape, or form. And who's going to be? We would be funding them because they will be a net loss to the EU. But they have their motives, and their motives are not good ones. They have given so much aid to Ukraine, and because Ukraine, until it is a full member, is not bound by EU rules on farming, they can produce food much, much cheaper than the French farmers. So they're giving them aid and then buying food from them at a much reduced price and putting French farmers out of business. And the French farmers who are going out of business are losing their land. I wonder who they're losing it to. And isn't it interesting that something similar happens in China? They are not very nice people. 3 home runs, yay. The sun has a lifespan. Our sun is about halfway through its life. Don't worry, it's still about 5 minutes. Yeah. Yes, I agree. Of course, all research is good. All technology is good. It's just, again, quite sad that the technology that we have is in the hands of people who are not using it for the best reasons, and that does concern me because we are unfortunately entering a dystopian world, and that does concern me. I believe that we are literally in or approaching Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, and in the words of Aldous Huxley, he said, "For a totalitarian society to succeed, there must be a measure of compliance from its citizens, because if they reach the point that they no longer care whether they live or die, then totalitarianism falls apart." But there is an even more effective way to control the people, and that is hedonism. Allow them to overdose on anything that they like to any degree. Then you do not need to destroy them, because they will then destroy themselves. And just as George Orwell came after Aldous Huxley, he was his teacher. Aldous Huxley was George Orwell's teacher, yes. Um, I believe that Brave New World will precede the world of 1984, and that's how it will be done. Destroy society, or give society the tools to destroy itself, so that they will be too busy living in Sodom and Gomorrah to notice the dystopian world that will engulf them until it's too late. Um, on that sorry note, a couple more questions here. Alan, good idea about space, because it would be great. Get to send a Richard gear into space. A wooden rocket ship on target for the sun. A one-way journey, because they both are waste of. Yeah. Okay. And Miss Prim and Proper. I'm a boomer and get annoyed when everybody blames my generation for the state of the world. I've done everything in my power to try and make things right. I know that, and I hope that I did make that point clear. Um, Let me put it this way. Um, I've never worked for anybody, and I've always just worked for myself. I'm unemployable because I can't keep my mouth shut. I wouldn't last 5 minutes anyway. Good or bad, whether there've been good times or bad times, I feel that I live an extremely privileged life in this country. Even when I've been broke, even when I fell flat on my face, which I have done several times over the course of my life where things have gone wrong. And ultimately, it is the boomers who created the world that enables us to live such a privileged life. But somewhere along the way, the message has been changed, and it has gone from gratitude to resentment and entitlement. And that is wrong. And we know the type of people who have done that, don't we? Uh, I want more stop and search. So do I. Um, I want literally merciless stop and search to turn things around. I want an end to police tiptoeing around people because they will play the race card on them or anything. It's not about that. This is about crime, and it has to be stopped in its tracks. And we need also to get rid of police commissioners, because the police force should not be political. They should be about dealing with crime and hunting down the criminals, not posting selfies on TikTok pandering to perverted minorities. That is not the job of the police. Oh, sorry, did I say perverted minorities? Oh, too late now. Right. The older people in the main are to blame for their senility in voting in favour of leaving the EU. Madness. Vote rejoin EU party. No, no, and never. Let me make it clear to you how I feel. I love every country in Europe. I've said that many times. The EU is a horrid, unelected, unaccountable, autocratic, evil Marxist culture founded on founded on dictatorship, Marxism, lies, and deceit, held together by money stolen and extorted from its citizens. We contributed billions and billions of pounds to the EU for what? They stole our fish, they stole a lot of our markets, they interfered in so many aspects of our society. It is the most horrid institution this century. And I cannot wait to see the day when it falls apart. For the billions of pounds that we used to give them, what did we used to get in return? Oh, I know. Occasionally, they would pay for a small building. It could be something like the Manchester Mutual something society, proudly sponsored by the EU, because we'd give them billions and we get a few 100,000 or the odd million here or there, but whatever we get back is proudly sponsored by them. No, they are begrudgingly sponsored by us. Unelected, unaccountable, evil, autocratic. And the day that it breaks apart will be the day that Europe can once again be free. My only concern is that if that day does not come soon, there will not be a Europe left to be free, because thanks to the EU, thanks to the globalists, we throughout Europe and the UK are facing demographic genocide. Thank you very much, but no thanks. Like Saddam, well, we needed to invade, didn't we? Because he had a giant pea shooter that we sold him. We're actually trading better since we left the EU. And yes, I did vote to leave that evil organisation. Yes, we are. Every metric is up, having left. Exports up. Exports to the EU, the highest ever in the first full year after lockdown. Literally every metric. And that is with Sunak, who the globalist, who was placed there by his globalist friends to betray us, who was preceded by Bojo, who was a complete and utter waste of space. The wealth that is in the hands of over 60 will go to their kids. Scrap inheritance. You think the people who die are taking it with them? Yes, again, just for the record, if you don't know, the policy of Reform UK is to raise the inheritance tax threshold to 2 million. And here's the part that I like. Beyond that 2 million, if your estate is liable for inheritance tax, you are able to designate a charity for that inheritance tax to be donated to. I think that's a change for the better. Don't forget WASPy women. I had to work an extra 6 years, making 51 years of full-time working while studying for degrees as well. I'm okay, right. I had a meeting with the WASPy women. Are you, Miss Prim and Proper, are you from Northampton? Let me know. I had a meeting with the WASPy women in Northampton at Moulton Community Centre last week. I do support them. My colleague or fellow candidate from Oadby and Wigston in Leicester also passionately supports the WASPy women, and I have introduced them because Danuta from Oadby and Wigston knows more about this than I do. So I introduced her to the lady. I actually met three ladies. Three ladies at Moulton Community Centre last week. And they filled me in on their story and what had happened to them and how it worked out, which was quite cruel because one of them was literally 3 months away from retiring. And then suddenly she was 18 months away from retiring. And then suddenly she was 3 years away from retiring, which it seems to have been executed very unfairly. But yes, I do support the cause. That is untrue and very rude comment. Not sure that one's too. I lost 54,000 in unpaid state pension, plus I paid income tax and insurance for another 6 years. The government owe me. Yes, I understand that. And it's also quite tragic, the amount of WASPy women who have died and never received what was due to them. There's a counter on the website with the amount, the number of women who have died, WASPy women have died, and the amount the Exchequer has saved. Me too, Ms. Prim. I'd like to know if Reform are going to make redress to the WASPy women. Well, I know that it's something that I support, and several fellow candidates. So that is something that we are pushing for. I didn't really know a great deal about it until I'd actually had my meeting last week. But it is definitely something that uh, I'm not only supporting, but I will actively be pushing for, because I think that it's very unfair. I got to, okay, reform your brains, okay. Why give India money when they don't use it on their own people that need food? They bloody spend it on spaceship. Exactly, they've got their own space program, and we're giving them all this money. Unnecessary. Same, China, yeah, absolutely, must be stopped. We should stop all foreign aid. We got homeless people on our streets in the thousands, and we need to address the drug problems in youth with nowhere to go and keep them out of trouble. Absolutely. Our national treasure, sorry to anybody who's older, it's not that you're not, but I'm just saying our focus has to be on young people, not just to ensure that they can have access to a home and have a family. We also need to protect them from those who are out to harm them, those who are out to brainwash them, and we know who we mean there, don't we? Oh, I hope you do, because they are under attack in every way, and destroy our young people, you destroy our future. It's the cost of living that is hurting all of us because of your Nigel's Brexit. I am glad that there are normal people in this country that would never let you reform clowns in power. Okay, welcome to your opinion, of course. I agree. Stop all aid and help our own people. Reform your brains. Thank you, Robin. Then we would be able to help other countries with so much help after he helped our own people. Nigel is a very dangerous person, Northern Powerhouse. Okay, you sound like a person with a grudge. Are you a Ramona? Well, you obviously are. I'd like to know why you are and why you feel that you dislike this country so much that you would rather our country is run by another country. That's something that I'd like to know, because I don't agree with that. Charity should begin at home. Agreed. Lib Dems and Green too. It's not high food prices that are hurting you all. All parties are scared of Sir Nigel. Vote Greens, Greens. Okay. Tell China to stop pollution first. Yes, valid point. I've covered that before. We produce less than 1%, 0.8% of the world's pollution. One of the cleanest countries on one of the cleanest continents. Yet China, just in the last 5 years, has kicked out more pollution than the British Empire did since the start of the Industrial Revolution. If these people really are so passionate about net zero, about the climate, how about we look at measures to force China's hand to cut down on their emissions? A country that has hundreds and hundreds of coal-fired power stations in the pipeline. They are literally choking the planet. Which one of them mentions China? Not one of them, because they might lose out in their pocket. That's why. Vote Greens. I think it's smoking something green. Nigel is married to an immigrant. Nice one, Robin. Form your brain. Nice one, Robin. Okay. I'm struggling to keep up with all of these now. I'm really sorry. I'm trying to read with them. You're doing well, like loads of reform in the chat. All but two of you used to work for the NHS, retired in 2013, disillusioned with excess of managers and shortage of quality caring staff, working conditions again. Yes, this is what I'm hearing from everyone. Something needs to be done, and we need to address this. We really, really need to, because as I understand it, many people are at breaking point, and they could literally have a mass exodus of staff who just think, I can't cope with this anymore. 3 Brexiteers. Correct with immigration vote reform, please. I thought Northern Powerhouse was a myth. Hello, Wendy. What about disabled people on benefits? Are reform going to treat us with as much disdain as the Tories? And will you keep the WCA and keep on court cases? Um, don't know about the court cases. There isn't any plans to. There isn't any plans to address anybody who's genuinely disabled. But there are plans to address people who are who are part of the sick note culture, and that has to be done. It's your Brexit that is hurting us all, and the rest of the country are starting to realise it was a lie. So, what makes you think people are stupid enough to vote for more hurt? Well, if you think that about Brexit, then I might as well not waste my time. In fact, I won't waste my time. I'm definitely in Northampton South. Then your candidate is Anthony. He's a posh Anthony. Anthony Owens, the paramedic. Good guy. Feel you in too many people are cheating the system and pretending to be disabled. They need to be assessed. Keep up the good work, reform. You're smashing it. I really hope that we are. I do sense something out there. Really, I do. But if there is, the Tories ain't caught one. Not. I predict 20 million will vote for Nigel. Robin, hold, you're not right in your head. 17 million, right, 17.4 million voted to leave. I am sure they will vote for Nigel again. Many people that voted to remain also wish that they voted to leave. So about 20 million ready to vote for Nigel and reform. I don't know. That remains to be seen. I don't know. I would love to think so. If migrants have to leave, then all migrants that aren't from this country must go. Illegal, I assume. Illegal? Yes. In terms of legal, then we do need to make sure that we have control of everything. For example, I was in a meeting with the University of Northampton yesterday, and they are struggling with students, overseas students, which obviously contribute significantly to their budget. So it's a case of ensuring that overseas students are genuine students going to genuine universities, and that the universities are not being used as an excuse for the students to come here and then abscond or then try and bring their families or something. That immigration, legal immigration, must be controlled, and nobody should come here unless they are wanted for a specific reason that will contribute to this country. It sounds harsh, but that is how it has to be. Otherwise, we have the mayhem that we have now. Brexit was one big lie, another country it now, and we will look back. Okay, the people in government betrayed us. We wanted only trade deal. Yes, that's what the British public voted for. And you know that in later years, Margaret Thatcher was on the record admitting that she knew that it was not just a trade deal when she was out campaigning for joining the common market with her jumper with all the flags on. She was lying through her teeth. She knew the objective was ever closer union, but she kept it from people, and she admitted that she kept it from people because the people weren't ready to accept that yet. It needed a few more years of brainwashing and creating the type of people we've got on this thread who actually think that the EU is anything but evil. But anyway, thanks for getting back to me about. He's got my vote. Reform is the only way forward for the country. Farage for politics, Tommy Robinson for the movement. We all need to join together to unite our country. That would be against democracy. It is our time now. The sooner we get to vote to rejoin, only then can we start to rebuild and keep these mad reformers away from power. Dear, this northern powerhouse needs to switch off and pour themselves a vodka or a whiskey. I'm sure that you're very upset. In fact, why don't you go on TikTok and look up some videos of Femi, you know, the mouthpiece who just talks rubbish, who has such poor intelligence that the minute you take him off topic, like he was taken once by Katie Hopkins, his manager had to step in and stop the interview and rescue him. You know, the one who makes the videos that lots of people who voted Brexit have died. So we've got Brexit as a result of dead people. That's the kind of logic that I won't waste my time with. We should deport him. Reform your brains. Do you really think people are stupid in voting for more hurt? Oh, it's Northern Powerhouse again. I should have looked at the name first, not to waste my time. Should be the first person to be deported. Yes, he can go to Europe. He can go to Brussels. Okay, I voted Reform today. Thank you so much. Crusaders are behind me, like we did at Speaker's Corner. Good grief. I'm so delighted to see so many contributions and comments here. I don't care if they're good or bad, really, I don't. And most of them are very, very good, apart from this Northern Powerhouse, whoever he or she is. Tories are finished, and Labour won't be any better. Reform all the way. There should be a way where I can pop these comments onto the screen so that you can see them, but I'm only using this platform. I haven't been using it for that long, but I'll try and figure it out, because then that way you can see what I'm reading or looking at. I think Miliband didn't eat bacon because Jews don't eat pork, same as Muslims. Well, Miliband is a dangerous one, I'm afraid, because there's every possibility that he will be Environment Secretary. He was championing Sadiq Khan, the expansion of ULEZ. He will tax you for breathing as you walk down the street. He really, really is a dangerous and a horrible little man with a grudge and a bitter resentment that you all voted the wrong way, both in the referendum and in the election when he lost. I'm afraid he's not going to be good for the country. You know the film Pulp Fiction, not saying like you, and Samuel Jackson, English. But 13 people watching. Keep up the good work. My dog gets more people watching. Who's this? Oh, it's Northern Powerhouse again. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. I must actually make sure I don't read out any more of his, waste my time. The benefits of Brexit will increase as time goes on. The powers that be open the doors to immigration to teach 17.4 million a lesson for voting to leave. This is why we need Reform UK. Absolutely. And this is why we are standing for Reform UK. Yes, I was 11 months from retiring and then had to work another 6 years before retirement. That must have hurt. Definitely put young first. I'm in God's waiting room. They've got a whole life to live. Okay. If you become MP, you be a delegate MP, a trustee MP, or a mandate MP. I will be a troublesome MP. That's what I will be. We're also. Oh, are you coming to Hunsbury Meadows to canvass? I might be joining Anthony Owens. That's I think Hunsbury Meadows is Northampton South. It's not Daventry, is it? If it's, I'll have to check on the map. So Hunsbury Meadows, off Rotherthorpe Road, correct? Forgot the name. Anyway, yes, down by the canal. Yes, I think that is Northampton South. That'll be Anthony Owens' area. Keep in mind that Anthony Owens is working a grueling schedule as a paramedic, and it is grueling. So he's very, very limited on what he can do, but he's standing anyway. What did you say about investing in space? Well, I don't know too much about it, but I'm in favour of investing and researching all technology. That's as much as I can say really on that topic, to be honest, because if you're interested, you probably know more about it than I do. I'm 18 and this is my first general election. Why should you get my vote? Okay, I'll tell you why. Because I intend to address housing. Um, I intend to do whatever I can to expose the reasons that we have a housing crisis, the people who are creating it, the people who are stifling the supply, and the people responsible for our existing housing stock, or rather, so much of our existing housing stock to not be available because there are no incentives to renovate it and make it available. I am also strongly against overseas investors using our property to park their ill gotten gains from another country. Their investment in this country is welcome, but I support directional and constructive or investment. In other words, they can't just buy lots of property and leave them empty. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of empty homes, which are basically being used as a car park for somebody's money from the other side of the world, and they really don't care less. That is wrong and that must stop. But their money could be used and directed into building social housing, affordable housing, first time homes, flats, whatever it may be, on brownfield sites throughout the country. Therefore, it would offer homes to young people such as yourself. It would offer them a return, and it wouldn't cost the government a single penny. In fact, it would actually generate money because you have the multiplier factor of all of the revenue generated when somebody's building a home, from all the materials, the people working, the people moving in, carpets, curtains, furniture, etc., etc., etc. It would really contribute towards the economy rather than them just buying a house in London or a flat in London somewhere to park their money. But we need to look at the agenda. And to do that, we need to roll back to 2008 when there were quite a lot of high end developments in London and they were caught by surprise by the financial crisis. Now, property booms or property price rises in this country, traditional, are bottom up. It begins from first time buyers buying the two up, two downs, who then move up to the three bed semis, who move up to the detached houses, and so on and so forth. And it normally reticulates upwards and outwards from the southeast London and works its way all the way out to Scotland and Northern Ireland, who are normally the last. And by the time the prices in Scotland and Northern Ireland begin to rise, London's normally about to take its next dive into a housing crash, if you like. But 2008 onwards was different. It wasn't a bottom up price situation, it was a top down. What they had done is they encouraged people from around the world to dump their dirty money into these high end blocks just to get them sold. And don't be fooled with this nonsense about money laundering, because one of the most one of the most ridiculous and unbelievable money laundering centres in the world is London. And yet you put 50 quid that you want on a fruit machine in your bank and they'll start asking you questions on the grounds of money laundering. It's absolutely ridiculous. But basically, billions of pounds was poured into the high end properties that then went up, saved all the developers, and then the effectively the price rises filtered down from the top, pulling the property up from the top down. But once they had salvaged all of these properties, they then updated the anti-money laundering laws. So then what they did is, once they had saved themselves, sold off all these blocks, then HMRC began to contact all of these buyers one by one, and they would just ask them, Mr. Romanoff, where did you get your 5 million to buy this property from? Can you prove that you brought it to this country legally? Oh, you can't. Oh, I'm very, very sorry. We're going to have to close down your account, take all your money, and take your apartment. You've got 30 days to appeal, but there's a cup of tea. And here's a leaflet in case you feel that we have been racist in anything that we've done. Please feel free to contact the helpline. Effectively, that's what they did. Hypocrisy on another level. I don't agree with people parking their money in our property because we need it. Young people need it. Young people need homes. I am in favour of investment in new industries. I'm in favour of young people being given opportunities to start jobs. And as long as you have access to a home, access to a job, and access to education, adult education, ongoing, because education should not be something that's finished and done with when you left the university, because we've got AI that's going to actually make many people redundant. So education needs to be ongoing so that people can improve their skills and improve their earning power and improve their standard of living throughout their life. If you have access to all of these things, and we can take steps to gradually improve things in the NHS, that won't happen overnight, but it must be set on the right course. Then I feel that it's fair to say that from that point, the ball's in your court, and you should then be responsible for your own destiny, because you would have everything really that a government is obliged to provide you with, and the government is, I believe, uh, is obliged to provide you with this access to a home, access to a job, help and support with education, with starting a business, and healthcare. Um, can't have anything else. The rest you have to do by yourself. Um, okay, form you. Can I be moderator? Yes, you can. I'm going to need some help with this, with all of these comments. To be honest, I'm really not worried about the horrid ones. Really, I'm not. I'm not worried about, I don't bat an eyelid how horrible they are, because I'm here and I'm prepared to just take whatever they throw at me, because I have more important things to worry about. Are you a Are you a delegate, mandate, or trustee? Do you know what these terms mean? I don't know what you are implying or what exactly you are asking me, but perhaps you can arrange to speak to me directly, and then you can actually ask me whatever it is that you actually want to know, because ultimately an MP is an MP is an MP, full stop. Now, uh, the, the other two parties have their party whips and so on and so forth. We don't have that in reform, of course. We have to, you know, we join because we support their policies, but we do all have our own opinions, and that is something I assume that will evolve, because we would need to all be in agreement to try and push things through, but that remains to be seen how that will go. I can answer your investment in space. It's been cost of living. Why are you lot avoiding the main problem? Um, okay, it's that one again. TV and phones. Comments are displayed. Oh, are they? Oh, okay. Oh, of course, yes. Where I am though, on this platform, I can see the comments from YouTube and from Facebook. It's on several Facebook pages, and from X, Twitter as well. But anyway, most of the comments, I believe, are from YouTube. Would reform in power be crippled by the civil service being against them and bodies like the Supreme Court, or is that a conservative excuse? No, we would struggle with them, because there are 500,000 more civil servants than there were just not before the pandemic, and we have costed everything and justified what we would spend, not from taking more from people, but from cutting back on waste. And they don't take too kindly to their numbers being reduced, or their performance being brought into question. So yes, we will have massive pushback, and that will require the courage, will require the determination and the fortitude to actually make it happen. And I do believe that we can, but it's not going to be easy. This is going to be a serious war against the establishment, against the civil servants, against all of the globalists, against all of the obsessive remainers that just won't let it go, even when they are presented with the evidence that this European experiment has failed and it is clinging on for dear life. We will have all of these, like a couple of the people who are commenting on this thread. Uh, Laundry capital of London. Yes, it is. London, not British. They voted for Khan. They're really, though. Okay, what's my salary? I don't know. Happiness and joy. All patriots will vote for reform. Okay, guys, my throat is going dry now. I'll need to wrap it up now. Thank you so much. I will be back again, hopefully tomorrow evening. Um, if you have any questions, you can message me, you can email me on here, on my website, on X, on my webpage, on my Facebook page, website, any platform, and I'd be happy to answer it. And as I said, if it's questions that I don't know the answer to, then I'm quite happy to get the answers for you before I get back to you. I can't remember every fact or figure off by heart, of course. Thank you very, very much. Just has one more. North being, uh, thank you, good luck. What's this? For Reform UK, Northampton North being a drink with you next time. Have a drink on stream water. Okay. Well, perhaps you'd like to join me a drink in my local, the Adelaide, here in the village. That would be nice. And perhaps I might even arrange a little local meeting here in the local pubs. That would also be nice. Thank you very, very much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the night, and I'll be back with you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.